Hello and welcome to another edition of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines Postgame Show. My name is Pat Burnham, and I'm joined as always by former FSU offensive lineman and college football coach Mark Salva, and then by the man, the myth, the legend from South Florida, Charles Fishbein. Guys, listen, another Saturday, another bad display of football by Florida State, and the Groundhog Day, really. I mean, the same things that have plagued this team since really going back to the Boston College game have continued to plague it. North Carolina finishes them off 35-11. North Carolina 500 yards total offense, 289 on the ground. Florida State 201 yards of total offense, 42 on the ground, 159 through the air. Listen. I think that we all held out some hope, which is a bad strategy, that we'd see some improvement from this team. And I think some of it was also, as Fish and I were talking before we got started, was predicated on the fact that we have seen this North Carolina team show up uninterested as FSU at times. And unfortunately, that was not the case today. Mac Brown, an FSU graduate, gets his first career win and 12 tries over the Seminoles, and a bad season, guys, just keeps getting worse. I mean, there are a lot of things that stuck out in this game that make you think that there's no development, that there maybe this team, to use Mark's term, is starting to capitulate to some extent. Mark, I'll start with you because I know you're probably more frustrated than Fish or I because you played at Florida State. So just your overall thoughts, and then we'll start. And I'm sure, and plus I know you probably got a bottle of bourbon you would like to get to.
Right.
At some point tonight.
Who says I haven't already?
I'd rather be waterboard than watch this team again.
Well, you got to watch them at least twice. I think that we have all earned the Charleston Southern Saturday off. I've got to be honest with you. I'm gonna ask Jerry if we could have Charleston Southern Saturday night off, because that game should not count anyway. Florida State will get credit for a win in that game. But anyway, let's talk about this one. Mark, the floor is yours, my man.
Well, if it wasn't so pathetic, it wouldn't be funny, right? I mean,
if we weren't laughing, Mark, we'd be crying.
Well, you said I haven't been. Listen, I'm going to start off positive. How about Fitzy, huh? Talk about dependable.
Who's that?
Ryan Fitzgerald.
And Mastromanno.
And Mastromanno, right? Those are two guys that are very dependable on this football team. I'll go to war with those guys any day. And look, what can you say? I think the most disheartening thing about tonight was that, I mean, really for the first time, I mean, they not for the first time, but I mean, it just seemed like they were never going to be in it. It's almost like they quit from the very get-go. I mean, this team just looks done, and it's when you roll an offense out there that has no chance, and of course the defense, there's business decisions all over that field, especially in the secondary.
Yeah,
and I think part of that's got to be because of the hopelessness, because we can't score points. There's no hope of scoring points. I'm tired of talking about the offensive line. I mean, there's really nothing more I can say about it. I mean, if you got eyes, you can see. I mean, they're just a poor group. And here's the thing: I don't see a shred of anything that resembles winning football on any level.
No.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, what can I say? It's just disheartening. It's unrecognizable to me as Florida State football, and that's the kindest thing I can say.
Yeah, listen, obviously we said it before. We say it every week on the show and every week on Tuesday. And luckily, we talk about the opponent on Thursday, so we don't have to talk about Florida State as much. But Mark, we knew the offense was going to be a struggle just because of how poor the offensive line and running backs have played. I mean, wide receivers have played in general. I think the most shocking thing to me when I look at the offensive line, and I tried to keep track of who was giving up the sacks today. And it's your two most experienced players. It's your two oldest players. It's Jeremiah Byers and Darius Washington. They gave up the vast majority of the pressures and sacks that I kept track of. I know Otto gave up one, and I think they put in Keandre Jones for Jalen early at some point, and they got him out of the game. But yeah, I think that's the surprising point from the offensive line to me. It's not the young kids that are getting beat. Now they are getting beat from time to time, and obviously they're not on an island like the tackles are, but it's your two best offensive linemen that are giving up the most disruptive plays.
Yeah, and that is disheartening. And Marty Smith didn't even play today. I don't know if he's hurt or if it's just because of the snapping issues or something else. I mean, they're not very transparent with that kind of stuff. So who knows why Rizzi started the game? And I looked at this one sack that Darius had. It was on a play action pass where we faked a stretch play to the left, and so Darius is going to try to influence block, meaning he's going to fake like he's trying to reach the outside shoulder of the defender to try to trigger the defender's read to widen him out, right? But the guy was on a predetermined inside charge. Well, whenever I coached a play like that, I always told the guy, you got to protect against that exact scenario. You want to trigger him outside, but if there's any indicators at all, whether his alignment is tightened up or if you've got to take away the inside first on that play. You got to protect against it, because if you have nothing, protecting your backside, you just can't sell out on an influence block to the outside. So for me, that's not totally Darius's fault. That's a scheme issue, right? Yeah. And so, but there's little things like that all through it. The one where Byers got beat, the guy came inside on him. They're in a full slide protection. He's locked on that end guy, and this happened last week with on the other side with
Byers.
No, it was actually Rizzi playing guard.
Okay,
this happened last week. They did a full slide protection. This time it was the right side where Byers is locked on that guy, and the whole line slides over. Well, they're only rushing three guys. And so the guard is over here, turns away from Byers, and he's totally looking to his left. And you got 4-on-2 over here, 1-on-1 over here. I mean, do the math, dude. Right? Do the math. You got 3-on-2 over here. Okay, yeah, you have that gap if something comes there, but be a football player and know you got to tackle on an island over here and give them a little help. I mean, it's things like that. These are things that good football players do that and the reason they're doing it is, I guess they're being told to do it in a certain way with no, there's no wiggle room for them to do something different. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, because Mark, if you go back to the Georgia Tech game, that's when the tackle started giving up sacks to the inside, which you said you can't do. But I mean, this was a season-long thing, and then you and I were texting during the game. The same simple two-man twist gives these guys fits, and I will say this. Last year I thought they were much better at passing off twists and stunts. This year they're not, and it's basic stuff, right? I mean, it's not like they're twisting and stunt with the guy from the first front.
It's not a linebacker, no. It's just the tackle in the end. Yeah, it's just the tackle in the end, doing a simple, under stunt where the tackle comes up and the end comes underneath, or it's a tackle over stunt where the end comes to the side, the guy goes over. I mean, these are things you teach day one spring ball.
Yep.
This is basic stuff that we just abjectly fail at consistently and have all year. And I don't know if we can't do it. I'm not going to be. I don't know. I mean, what can I say? It's just been bad all year.
On offenses, and I watched the Penn State game early today, and they do some things formationally, even though they have really good players that are really creative, right? They They spread, they'll do some funky formations. And when you're struggling like this on offense, I don't understand why Mike and his staff have not been more creative than just keep on doing the same thing. It's a deep shot in the passing game or the RPO glance route, and then it's nothing but inside zone.
Yeah.
I just don't think he trusts either of these two quarterbacks. Listen, if he had trusted them, he would have played them earlier. That's why he stuck with DJ so long. Listen, coaches, they get a feel for these guys. Now that I've seen both of these guys play and you guys have seen them practice, I think it's a comfort level. I mean, Penn State has a quarterback in Drew Aller has played a lot of football. These two guys haven't, and they're just okay. And a big problem is they have flaws to their game that you could fix. But what happens when stuff goes wrong? You revert back to those bad flaws, and that's what's happening. Their mechanics are off, their footwork's off. And I just don't think he feels comfortable calling plays with these guys. I don't think you can fix it. I think it's something that you have to wait till the spring.
Here's my question on that, and I wrote about it in our keys to the game. Do y'all remember when Jordan Travis was a young quarterback under Mike? When he struggled, Mike would start getting him on these half boots, rollouts, half field reads, and you got two quarterbacks that aren't as athletic, but they are athletic. And number one, that means at least two of those guys on the defensive front are having to extend themselves to get to you if you're rolling half boots, and they don't have to read the whole field. So I don't understand if that worked with Jordan Travis. And we did see you saw a couple of plays like that. I remember Luke had a completion where they got him on a little half boot. But Mark, why don't you think we're seeing any of that? I mean, because these guys first of all, to Fish's point, if they're not ready to be the starting quarterback, and one of the reasons they would not be ready is because they have a hard time reading the entire field. All right, so so if you cut the field in half, like they did for Jordan, they got Jordan rolling, and Jordan started to develop, and then they get back in more of the drop back game as he got more experience. Why do you think they are not doing more of that?
I think, but let me jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Remember too, he had Dillingham, who was you've seen at Arizona. That's a very good coach.
Arizona State.
He's very good at Arizona State, and maybe Dillingham was able to get on the headset, kind of give him some ideas. Maybe that he's not getting that same bounce back from these coaches.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is. And I think he's on his own.
I think he's on his own. And when you're on your own, you do need somebody in that earpiece going, hey, coach, listen, I see this a little different. Let's run this. If he's not getting that feedback and he's on his own, there's a reason why we all feel there's going to be new coaches after this season. So, I mean, I don't want to call guys out, but remember, Torkaz was a GA that's now a quarterback coach that really probably just doesn't say much. And then you got Alex, who's right now his unit's struggling. So what advice is he going to give Norvell that he's going to listen to? I think Mike's on an island right now. And I don't know how you fix that.
I mean, he to your point, Pat, he needs some fresh ideas for sure. For me, I sit back there and I say, okay, where are the simple throws in this offense? Every throw is a deep crossing route or a corner. They're low percentage throws. Where are the little curls? Where are the things where receivers are facing coming back to the ball? I mean, things that would give these guys a little confidence. Little spot routes, a little tight end option route, a little back option.
When was the last time we ran a screen pass? Listen,
well, they tried receiver screens, but they don't ever work.
No, I'm talking a running back screen. But Mark, it's not like they can't run it. Our offensive line automatically let everybody through, so the plays may work.
Right.
But Mark, listen, we were talking about it in our chat when it was 3rd and 10. At that point, they needed 5 yards. They didn't need all of it. You're going for it on 4th down, and they go for a low percentage pass. And now you're putting your quarterback in a position he has to make a great play when he hasn't all game. I just think all of it's – I'd like to just scrap all of it because it is a disaster.
Yeah, well, just a little tight end option, back option, right? I mean, if you're going to send all 4 out, then run the back on a little back option with isolating the linebacker. I mean, there's easy throws that out there that we never seem to tap into. Like I said, I think you might just need some fresh ideas. He needs another voice in that room that can an experienced voice that can give him some stuff to make it easier for these guys. Everything is so hard, and I get that. And look, the thing about those throws is you don't need a lot of time. It's hit your 3rd step and cut it loose. I mean, it's you could anybody can block these things, even if it's just slant flat. I mean, spider wide banana. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Listen, and some of it's baffling. Like Fish, you mentioned when they had the ball 1st and 10 on the 50, and they throw 4 straight passes, including a 3rd and 11 deep downfield, instead of trying to get half the yardage. You know you're going to go for it on 4th down because of what the score is, already 28-11 at that time. I mean, to me, that just shows you you're not putting your team in the best position to try. I mean, why go for the home run balls all 4 plays in that drive?
I mean, 1st down is so important, especially with a young quarterback. Like, you have to win 1st down. If you're now in 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 12, like, these guys are not – listen, Cam Moore, Jameis, Deshaun Watson, those guys could get you out of 2nd and 3rd and longs. Maybe these guys can 2 years from now, but they're not there now. You have to put them in position to be successful. How do you do that? You have to be able to win 1st down. You have to give them some easy layups in the passing game. It just seems like every time they call a play, it just does not seem to make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason for their play calling.
And then the other thing that is kind of driving me crazy still, and I guess it's not going to change because your best player on offense outside of your quarterbacks who are running for their life every play and sometimes making something out of it, is Lawrence Toafili. 8 runs for 24 yards, 1 catch with only 2 targets. He's by far your best skill player. Why aren't they getting in? I don't understand why they're not getting him the ball more. Well, I mean, put his ass in the Wildcat and let him run.
I've said that. He did it against Louisville. It worked. I mean, listen, last year against Louisville, they had to create an offense. What'd they do? He got creative. He put Toafili in there at quarterback. They do nothing to help. Like, I honestly feel like watching today, everybody conceded from the coaches down to the players. They waved the white flag, and that's what it looked like to me. That's why I called out. I tapped out like Anthony Richardson, man. I had enough.
Well, listen, this is I don't know how many different announcing crews that have covered a Florida State game, but Mark Herzlich is the analyst for this game, a guy that played the game at a high level for at Boston College. I believe was a pro player for a while. He's calling out the defense in particularly about lack of effort, lack of physicality, called out Shaheem Brown multiple times, including making a business decision. So let's slide over to the defense because we know the offense is a mess. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face, and we have. But listen, everybody starts, I said before this week, it's because the offense is so bad that it makes the defense look respectable. The score at Miami got everybody a little bit excited because it wasn't a blowout. The same thing at Clemson. But this is a bad defense, guys. 500 yards, 289 yards on the ground. Lack of effort, and I do think that at 21-7 or whatever the score was, 21-3, you did see a little bit of a dip in effort, particularly on defense. And then the longer the game got, the more you kept on.
But when it was 21-11, you see Norvell run to the defense.
Yes.
Right? And say, right here, he's going right here, right now. We make our stand right here. We get back in this game. You guys make a stop, and we got a chance. And what's the next thing that happens? Running back goes for what?
43-yard run.
43-yard run.
Lost the edge, and you do the unthinkable, and get another 15 yards tacked onto that because you want a horse collar guy that's running out of bounds, or because you don't want to put your face across his body to make a tackle, which goes back to the soft thing. And we got a question from Brendan Green Anderson. Brendan, any of us want to make a comment on the defensive ends who we never set the edge? Yeah, I think I was talking with somebody last night, and he was talking about Adams' defense, and we were just having a conversation about the program as a whole and kind of going through the staff. And he said the one thing I'll give Adam is his defense is sound, but it's soft. And so I think that answers your question about the defensive ends. These guys are not physical. They're not physical as a defense, and they practice the way they play the way they practice, and they don't practice the practices are not very physical. And listen, again, they're not taking the ball away from anybody, which we've all talked about. I think you've said it just about every week, Fish. But listen, here's the thing. They knew what was coming. It was going to be a ton of A and B gap inside zone runs, and Omarion Hampton still runs for 32 carries for 172 yards. And I guess you could probably count the shuttle pass as a run. That went for 50. The kid had like 252 all-purpose yards on 35 carries. How do you not slow down 28 at all?
Listen, I think Mark will tell you the same thing. A lot of times this is pride. I mean, football's a one sport you get exposed when you don't come to play. There's no hiding it in football.
There's not.
You know, you could get away with slacking in a basketball game and get your 30 points and jack up a bunch. In football, you will get exposed if you don't come to play. And this team, that one drive where they came out of the gate and basically let North Carolina, they waved the white flag, and that's a pride thing. That's not just, listen, I watched the military schools, Army, Navy. These schools don't have nowhere near the talent Florida State, and guys have pride. They're like, on this play, this guy's not going to beat me. Mark's been there. He's been in the trenches. He knows this better than anybody. There's a lack of pride at Florida State right now. They're wearing that uniform. They may as well take the spear off. They should take everything off the helmet and just wear a gold helmet because they don't deserve to wear the helmet the way they're playing. It's a pride thing. It's a Florida State thing.
Yeah, well, to get your butt beat physically every single game, you're right, Fisher, it is a pride thing. I mean, I don't see – I mean, you know, when often during a simpler time when people didn't run as many plays and offenses weren't as sophisticated, a lot of times, Mark, tougher teams win the game. And Florida State is not a very tough football team, and it shows up at the line of scrimmage.
Let me say this: football will never change. I don't care how sophisticated offenses get. Right? You got to be good in the trenches. You got to play physical on defense. And and you know what? That goal line stand was a good indicator of what this team could do when they put their mind to it. But you know what? They don't defend space very well, and that's why. They tend to have these, the goal line stand and the they almost had another one, and then they get the penalty and they get another chance. But they don't defend space very well. So let's go back to your initial point about Adam Fuller's defense being sound. It is sound. I don't have a problem with Adam Fuller's scheme per se. You see people execute this scheme all the time. I think of the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are not a big blitzing team. They play a very similar philosophy anyways. I don't know about the scheme. The philosophy is very similar. They play a lot of zone, but the thing they do really good is they build that wall. They have their gaps and they tackle really, really well, right? If you're going to play this philosophy of bend, don't break, play zone, match coverage, make sure your gap's sound, you got to tackle one-on-one. This is the worst tackling football team I think I've ever seen, and I've seen some bad ones. Okay, I've coached on some bad ones. All right, I'll fully own that. But the lack of tackling in technique and tackling, the unwillingness to how many times do I got to see a DB go up there and just throw his shoulder into a guy thinking he's going to go down? How many times do I got to see, linebackers, wrap their arms around a guy without putting their face in there and then hold on and ride him like how many times do we got to see a running back, lunge forward and fall down for an extra 3 yards?
How fun was it to watch Omarion Hampton run the ball? I mean, he runs low. He's going to bring it with him, and linebackers were turning it down.
That's a grown man, right? That's a grown man.
Yeah,
they didn't want any part of it, and that goes back to the pride thing. I get it, and lack of physicality, and part of me wonders if because of the offense, that the defense is just like well, why am I going to put myself out there? And that's a bad place to be. I'm not excusing them by any stretch. Please don't hear me on that. But I got to think that plays a little bit of a role, is that you go in as a defense already thinking, if we don't hold them to 14, we don't have a chance. And that's really part of the problem too, I think.
Yeah, listen, I think there's got to be, at some point, there's personal pride. These games are on television. There's film that's being looked at. I think you owe it to your teammates and yourself to play hard, and they don't. And listen, this is a reflection on the staff. There's no doubt about that. I've said before that these practices are not particularly hard. Now, I know that the way you can practice has changed a lot, but I don't think I would have to go back and find out the specific rules on how many contact periods you can have and what's defined as contact in practice. But as I've said many times before, I would push it to the letter of the law. Whatever they allow in physicality, I would find out who my football players are. I'm sitting there thinking today as I watch the DBs play, I wonder if they evaluated every DB off 7-on-7 tape, because they certainly don't know how to play the run. They don't want to play the run. And it's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing that they would have put this on film. It's embarrassing that the coaches would allow it. And that's some of what's going on here. We've talked about accountability before. How do you not pull some of these guys after watching some of this lackluster effort that almost everybody recognizes that watch these games? It's baffling.
Well, look, you're in a catch-22. You pull these guys, and who are you going to put in there? I mean, you got to roll with what you got, and there's just nowhere to turn. And that's the problem. Maybe you fall into somebody and you find somebody, but chances are, the guy behind him is probably the same kind of way, because look, we said it going into the year. We all knew there was a lack of leadership on this team.
Yep.
There is not a bell cow or somebody that can just put this team on its back and will it to a win. There's no leadership on this team. That's evident, and that was a problem going into the year. And I think everyone on this call said that we're interested to see who would do it. Who would that person be? And we went with a quarterback who's not a vocal guy, who hasn't been on this team but for 6 months, and that's a tough place for a guy to lead that's not a born leader. He's not. And we put all our eggs in that basket, and it has come to roost now, because there's nobody, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that is a leader on this team. And so now you become a coach-led team, and when you're if the coaches have to be the guys that bring the juice in practice and be the ones that hold everybody accountable, that's a bad place to be. Yep. And that's part of the problem, because now you look at the coaching staff. Who's leading the coaching staff? We got one guy. The head guy is the only guy that I think is. Look, I like Mike. I think Mike's. His career. He's been a good coach. Is this a blip? At this point, it's like, he's responsible for all of this. I mean, he saw things that weren't there, or allowed it to happen, and that's a miss on him. I think he's a smart guy. I hope, maybe we'll talk about this. I don't know, but it's the future right now is concerning, because not only are we starting from scratch, we're starting from the bottom. This team is last in just about every objectable measure that you, in Power 4 football that you can have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen. And on top of that, you did this in front of 4 kids on official visits. You put, the only thing those kids can walk away from here is going, my God, if I come here, I can play. I won't have to sit
enough
very long. Maybe if they've evaluated them properly, But listen, it's crazy. All right, so I've gotten a couple of texts, and obviously we got a comment on the screen. Do you think Mike Norvell has lost his football team?
I think evidence would say yes.
Fish?
I've never been in a college locker room or a pro locker room and been part of a team like Mark, so he'd have a better, like saying, guys, I just knowing how competitive I am, and I can't play at Florida State. I can't imagine guys not wanting to go out and compete and lose. Like, losing a locker room just doesn't make sense to me, but it doesn't look pretty. This team, he's lost the team for this year. I think that he has a lot of decisions to make after this season. I told you before we came on the show, yep. I believe he's got to fire coach tomorrow, and it's nothing personal. I just think when you go to ask boosters and you're asking fans to show up to games, listen, you can't expect people to spend their hard-earned money and come out and play like they play today. Today was disgusting. It's unacceptable. And that's why I say he should come out and say, listen, as long as I'm the coach at Florida State, this will never happen again. And I'm going to start – you got to start cutting people. And I'm sorry to say that. I think some of even the players that are on the team, you got to look at them and say, listen, man, you're not going to be welcome back, because there's got to be a standard at Florida State. Losing is bad, but losing to this level is unacceptable from the top down.
Well,
let me amend my comment about leadership real quick, because I know Jerry likes to tell this story. But, Wayne McDuffie, who coached me as an offensive line coach and was offensive coordinator at Florida State back in my time, told Jerry this one time. He said, Jerry had mentioned that there were, who is there any leadership on this team? And Wayne said, there are always leaders on a team. 10% are leaders on the positive side, 10% are leaders on the negative side. It's the other 80%. Who are they going to follow? Are they going to follow the 10% on the top side or the 10% on the bottom side? And I can tell you, the people that are probably influencing the guys in the locker room are probably the 10% on the bottom side.
Yep.
Right. And I think
I hate to say it, the Daryl Jacksons of the world that basically are
playing. I don't know who.
Yeah,
I'm not calling out anybody.
They're playing for money, and they're not. Listen.
Well, you know what? That to me is probably a factor, right?
Yeah.
What's your why?
Yeah.
What's your why? What's your motivation to go out there and lay it on the line? Is it for the spear, or is it for my pocketbook?
Yeah.
That's got to be a question you got to discern. If that's part of it, then that's got to be a secondary thing. That's got to be something. Mike always talks about getting the right guys, getting the guys that want to play for the spear on the helmet. If those are the guys that are leading your football team are the guys that are there for the cash,
but
you got a problem.
Mark, you don't even play anymore, and look how sickening you feel in your stomach and gut with each one of these losses. Like, you're part of that team. They need somebody. They need a Greg Reed, a LaMarcus Joyner, a Telvin Smith. They need one of those guys that's like steps up. I don't think a coach could do it at this point. I know it's so late in the season, but somebody in that locker room needs to say, "Listen, man, I'm not up with this. This is like it's just somebody needs to step up and become a leader, because before you know it, spring football starts and they're going to have to start again. This thing needs to. You've got to fix this thing."
Listen, and here's the thing that I can't wrap my head around, and I think about some of the individual performances that I see, and I just wonder what these Sunday meetings are like. Because, Mark, I know you and I played around the same time. You were a little bit older than I was, but not much. And fear is a great motivator as a high school or college football player, because I never wanted to walk into the meeting room with my teammates and get shellacked by the head coach or the position coach because of something I was not doing correctly, particularly effort or my assignment. Now, technique might not have been great, but I just can't imagine. I mean, the fear of my position coach used to motivate me tremendously. And I mean, it did. And I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but I did not. I mean,
that goes back, Pat, to personal pride, right? Do you want to go in, accountability? Going into a film session, knowing you didn't do real well, or knowing there's one or two plays there that you're going to get your butt reamed, right? You know that's happening, and you dreaded it because you had pride. You didn't want, and you didn't want to let your team down. You didn't want to let coaches down. I know for me, it was like you hated to let Coach Bowden down.
Yep.
Right. But that comes back to personal pride. If that's not part of your ethos, if that's not part of your personal why, and I go back to what's your why, then no amount of admonishment in a Sunday meeting is going to make you feel bad. Because I've had those guys too. When I coached, I had some guys that could care less if I yelled at them or screamed at them. They were just like whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there could be some of that. So it just, again, having the right kind of guys that want to win is it's cliche, is I'll get out, but it's true.
Yeah. It's just hard. It's like I said, and Fish has already said it. 1-8 at Florida State is inexcusable. And to go back to your point about the assistant coaches and Fish, well, I don't think he's going to fire anybody. I think if it wasn't for his contract, everyone would be out of here, including him. I think that's the only reason he's coming back. So why make somebody the scapegoat 3 weeks early when you can wait 3 more weeks and not have any more disruption or embarrassment to the program? Listen, what these guys are putting on film as coaches and players is bad. And I just don't think it. You talk about people are out for blood and want heads. Well, they're going to get that. I mean, that's coming. But at the end of the day, all these guys, whoever he lets go, are fall guys because of the contract. Because if he was in a $25 million buyout, I don't think he's here next year. I mean, you can't to be in year 5 and go 1-8 and lose the locker room even for a season. And here's the thing: we all know he's gonna have to go to the portal. And so, how do you build a culture? And I'm tired of hearing about culture from every head coach.
Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah, it is. I hate it. I hate the word. I've told you a long time ago.
It's the most overused thing in the world. And listen, I want to ask you guys this, and Lisa asked a good question. I saw this right before the game started. It's being reported by another outlet that last offseason, Keon Coleman was telling wide receivers who were coming on campus not to come to FSU because of Ron Dugans. Now, they paid Keon Coleman handsomely to come to Florida State, and he was a difference maker for that team, but that did not buy the staff any loyalty. I mean, and for this to come, I don't know why these guys would put it out there. But I did read, I did listen to it, and I was shocked to find out that he would do that. So again, that goes.
Where did that quote come from? Did it come from Keon? It came from somebody that Keon talked to? Is it secondhand?
No,
I have a hard time believing that, and if it's true, I feel
Zach Blowstein from 24/7 is the guy that said it on a podcast. That's who said it. And I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they are reporting. They asked him
who knows where it came from. If that's some recruit that didn't come to Florida State that went to a rival school said that, then
or
I take
maybe somebody that Florida State ended up not offering a scholarship to.
Not offering a scholarship to. Yeah. I mean, there's no telling where that came from.
Yeah, but I don't understand why it's important to bring that up. I mean, I think it's not gonna change anything for this
season.
I
think some people take it personal that these coaches are losing and they want to, honestly, I've always gotten along with these guys. I think most of these coaches are good guys on this staff. But listen, if I was as bad at my job as what they're doing right now, you know what? I'd expect to get fired. I mean, it's just it's the reality of what you're dealing with now. You are
grown men.
They're grown men. They're grown men, and they're paid a lot. I mean, this isn't a lot. They're paid a lot. I mean, they're going to get paid a lot. If they get fired and they still have 2 years on their contract, they're still going to get paid a lot to not coach here anymore. So I just don't think he's going to I don't think he's going to do anything on Sunday or Monday. Can't do it tomorrow. The last thing you can do with 4 kids on official visits is fire a coach on the Sunday when these guys are wrapping up the visits. And I don't think it would be a good look. And listen, I said it before, going 1 and whatever they're going to go 2-10, 3-9, whatever they end up going. Obviously Lagway got hurt for Florida today. That probably increases your chances against those guys if he's out. But yes, I don't think it does any good. I don't think that's what Mike's going to do. He doesn't seem to be that kind of guy. And if he does it, I would think, Fish, to be honest with you, he would wait till the off week after Charleston Southern or before Charleston Southern. Which I think
usually those things happen when there's a conflict between the head coach and the assistant. If it's something
I'm just speculating. I think there's something going on with even him and the coaches. Like there's a disconnect in that program right now. Like, this isn't just the players. There's something going on at Florida State, and it needs to get figured out. But I mean, it's a bad situation. Like I said, I can't even believe. I'm stunned that they're this bad. I just really am.
I'm in shock every week.
Yeah.
Billy, I sure hope you're wrong on that, buddy. I understand your frustration, but I hope that's not true because wow, if that happens, I mean, shut down the program.
That deserves. I don't care how much the head coach is making. That happens, I believe. you gotta go all in. So I mean, you can't be losing to Charleston. Sorry.
Yeah. Listen, it's coming. We know those changes are coming. It's just, as we've said every week since we started broaching the subject when everybody else did. There's going to be changes, as we talked about Fish the other day. You hear numbers. I've heard people say, I think he's going to fire 2 coaches. I think he's going to fire 6. And some may leave of their own accord. We'll see. But yeah, it's a sad time for Florida State. I mean, I'm in constant shock every time I watch this football team. We hear Mike say the same things week in and week out. Nothing changes. He said at halftime, talk about the sacks, miscommunication. Well, no, it's not miscommunication when your tackles are missing one-on-one pass blocks. That's not miscommunication. Your rules are your rules. It doesn't take that much communication. And then he was talking about the wide receivers not getting open, and that was causing sacks. And I know that is part of the problem. I mean, there were a couple of times that Brock and Luke both had to hold on to the ball too long. Yeah, listen, and Southern Man is right. Every phase is an embarrassment except for Fritz and Mastromano. I mean, it's
well, we did have to call timeout because we didn't have enough people for the field
10 guys on the first field goal. That's crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
That's not Fitz's fault, I guess, but I mean,
well, hey, at least
you
didn't get a penalty for having too many guys on the field, so we have seen some improvement in that regard.
The first field goal they roll out there, and they only have 10 guys on the field.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse. They could have had 12 on there, make the field goal, and have to move it back 5. He still would have made it because that was a bomb. That was a bomb. No, I think it's crazy. That guy's going to play in the NFL. I mean, 2 years ago, you would not have thought Fitz was going to play in the NFL, and he's going to be an NFL kicker.
You were questioning whether they were going to bench him. He was so bad.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was missing everything.
So there's hope.
There's hope for 2 years from now. There's hope. But no, listen.
I'm going to hold on to that.
I don't even know why I continue to be surprised by this at this point. I keep on saying I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to get frustrated.
I'm not upset. I am frustrated, but I'm not upset. I mean, we all knew this was coming. We all, but it's hard to relate to see the effort, and that just speaks to what Fish said. There's something really rotten going on, and it's obvious. I mean, what you see on the field is the product of, things that are going on in that program that are just, Mike's got to get a handle on it, and it's got to get it corrected like really fast, because like I said, we're starting not from ground zero, we're starting from below ground zero. I mean, we are. Well, I
mean, listen, the one positive you can take away from it is that, you know what, nobody's like going into spring football. This is going to be the first time really every job is available. You got to find out who wants to still play at Florida State, because like I said, I think they get paid now, these kids, and they're not kids anymore. They're getting paid. They're professionals, basically. There's a pride thing. You played there. There's a lot of guys that have put on that helmet and put on the sweat, the tears of blood. I hate to use all the cliches, but there's a lot of people that have put the groundwork to make this program what it is, and they should not be able to watch this. This is not Florida State football.
Yes, it's definitely not Florida State football. I give you that. Like, I just keep on wondering if some imposters have taken over the locker room and put on the uniforms. Like I've said many times, and I'm a Seinfeld fan. This is like the bizarro season for Florida State football, where everything looks exactly the opposite of how it's looked for most of the last, since 1976 when Coach Bowden took over the program. It looks completely different. Listen, I think what we're finding out. Listen, I think Coach. And here's the thing, I think. First of all, I think we'd all take the lost decade back right now. But
right.
People seem to be more frustrated with Coach Bowden's last 5 or 6 years where they were still going to bowl games than they are this season. I mean, it's weird. I thought there would be.
It's called perspective.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. And sometimes I lack perspective.
Because there used to be in the top 5, right? And then all of a sudden we're not in the top 5 every year, and it's the worst of the worst. Now we just want to win a game. How things have changed.
Yeah. Billy, I tell you what, Billy's just doubling down on the Charleston Southern win. I tell you what, Billy, if Florida State loses a Charleston Southern, I will buy you your favorite 12 brand of beer, 12-pack. I'm not going to make some crazy statement like some of these guys do on social media, but I'll make you a bet on that. Though I'll bet you a 12-pack of beer that they beat Charleston Southern.
Dude, I'm not making any bets. Like I would say I'd run around the neighborhood naked, but I don't want to end up scaring the neighbors, man. I'll get arrested. So.
Man,
we don't want that. You guys
get that out of my head right now.
Yes,
please.
this has been a nightmare of a season. I got to try to sleep tonight. Do not be doing that to us.
Somebody put on a clip of
even though I lost 20 pounds, I still look bad.
Does anybody have the Bo Derek clip from 10? That's what we need.
Oh, man.
Wow, talking about a reference that nobody knows.
Oh, man.
Nobody on this pod knows that reference. I promise you.
Man.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. It's the good news is I think Billy, I think they got an off week to prepare for Charleston Southern. So.
Oh, dude.
Is the off week after Notre Dame and before Charleston Southern or after Charleston Southern?
I keep forgetting they got to play Notre Dame, man. Oh my God.
Hey, Fish, that's next week.
Oh God.
It's on the road, my man.
Hopefully they don't show the 93 game over and over, so these guys are actually extra motivated. I mean, like, come on, man. It's just.
Listen, these guys weren't even a thought in 1993. They're not gonna be worried about that.
Oh,
maybe show.
I was there.
Yeah, maybe show them 2013 highlights or something. Get them jacked up. I don't know if they played Notre Dame in 2013, but anyway.
Oh, man.
Well, listen, we could go on and.
Hey, Rudy showed more heart than these defenders, so I mean, heck.
Yeah. Well, hey, I know you were fired up because now you think Florida State's going to face the quarterback version of Rudy when Florida comes to town if Lagway's out.
I mean, this kid that's playing right now definitely looks like he came from Harvard. So, I mean, listen, that's the last thing. For Florida State fans always say you can lose to anybody, but just don't we'll go 1-11, 1-11. But if that one wins against Florida, well, we're going to find out if.
Well, he'll probably come out and play like what was the Harvard grad that played? Was it Ryan Fitzpatrick that played quarterback for the Bucks and the Bengals and about every team known to man he was from Harvard. Yeah,
we got a Harvard guy.
The kid just threw a ball so hard out of bounds he laid a guy out on the sideline. This kid, dude.
That's like a chance. That's like a scene from Varsity Blues.
We have nothing to laugh at. I don't know what you guys are laughing at.
Oh man!
I guarantee you, there's somebody.
Hey, Mark, I'd give you a hug if I was there, but I'm not there. So.
All right. So now Chad is doubling down on the Charleston Southern loss. Wow. We have hit rock bottom. Listen. If they were to lose to Charleston Southern, I think that everything comes back on the table, Chad. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. That absolutely cannot happen. I know that some of you think that it will. I do not. I mean, it's still an FCS program, and it's not a great one. So it's not Jacksonville State 2018, 2021. It's not Jacksonville State 2021. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, we could sit here forever and talk about what we've seen and try to give others group therapy, and Lord knows we'll need it after this season. I'm going to send my psychiatrist bill to the Moore Center in January, but see if we can get over this. But listen, you're right, Fish. We're going to find out a lot about this program. You mentioned it a couple of minutes ago. We're going to find out a lot about the direction of this program when the portal opens up that December 8th, and it'll close on December 29th, and I think that's going to tell us a lot about the future for Mike Norvell and long term, and a lot about the short term future.
When signing day?
December 4th.
Yeah.
So right around the corner. But well, listen, we appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, watching, listening, whatever you're doing, whether it's YouTube or podcast version. We do appreciate you watching the Osceola's post-game show. Obviously, Bob, Kurt, and Nick are handling post-game responsibilities. They will have their takeaways from today's game, along with Mike Norvell's thoughts on Mike Norvell's press conference, which he is holding right now, I would think. But yes, Florida State does fall to unbelievable 1-8 in the season, and another very bad optically looking loss where they were dominated from start to finish once again. And we'll be back next week after the Notre Dame game. But for all the post-game coverage, please go. I think Mark's coming back next week. I think
is the Notre Dame game at noon? Please tell me.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm asking for the first 9 a.m. kickoff in the history of college football. But we'll see. But yeah, so we'll be back. We'll be back on Monday with our Seminole Sidelines show at 6 p.m. Then we'll be back on Tuesday to chat it up some more at 3 p.m. Then Thursday we'll have our Notre Dame preview at 3 p.m. at the Osceola YouTube channel. So please hit the subscribe button before you leave tonight, and hit the notification button so that you get notifications when we're doing a taped or live show. But please join us on Monday at 6 p.m. We'll have our reaction to what Mike says tonight after the game, and obviously the coordinators and his press conferences on Monday at the Moore Center. We will have a reaction at 6 p.m. from that. Updates on where Florida State is from a roster standpoint as far as injuries that might have occurred in this game. Obviously, feel bad for Justin Cryer, who went down with what looks to be a pretty bad lower leg injury, was carted off in a air cast, and obviously
who's that?
Justin Cryer.
Juice Cryer.
Oh, he got hurt then?
Yeah. You feel bad for that kid because one thing that kid does, he may not be the most talented player on that football team, but he lays it out there and has ever since they started playing him more reps against Memphis. So hopefully he will heal fast. And but we'll be back on Monday. Please go to theosceola.com to check out Kurt, Bob, and Nick's coverage. And we'll be back on Monday at 6 p.m. We'll have unfortunately, Second Look Sunday tomorrow. I will get up and try to break down as much of the game as I can. I think it's going to be fairly simplistic.
You will need therapy.
I will need therapy. Listen, I can't believe I'm crazy enough to do it every Sunday, but I do, and I will, because you know what, Mark? I'm not quitting. I am not a boy. I am not capitulating. I'm going to do what I do every Sunday, and I'm going to watch this game again and share some of my thoughts.
I'm moving to soccer. Go Liverpool.
All right, hey, Mark. What is on tap for you as soon as you get off? What are you going to be drinking?
Well, first thing I got to do, I got 12 smash burgers I got to make on my Blackstone.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that first. After that, I got all kinds of stuff I can dip into, but it'll probably be the Buffalo Trace, I guess. I don't know.
All right. What about you, Fish? I know you're not a drinker though.
Nah, man, I don't. I actually had 2 drinks last night, and honestly, I was under the table. So
I do want to have a drink with you at some point.
We are gonna have a drink together, and then we'll go to we'll throw those blows that we both. No, this is terrible. We do need a drink after this season. Trust me, man. We definitely need a drink,
or maybe a medical card.
Oh my God!
One of the two. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Some good football games on, and we'll be back on Monday, as I said. But we do appreciate everyone that has stuck with us through this season. And listen, I know we've got some regulars now that listen to us on a weekly basis, and we certainly appreciate you guys turning in and letting us share our thoughts with you and your thoughts with us. But we'll be back on Monday night at 6 p.m. Everybody have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Mark?
Yep. Go Noles.